Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great, as I always say. And in this video, I got an absolutely crazy story from Eastern Europe. So definitely, if that sounds your cup of tea, or cup of vodka I guess, then definitely pull up a stump and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. When I was 18, I was more of a social outcast than most people, but I did manage to have a few friends, and they invited me to this lodge for Christmas holiday. Me and my family don't usually do anything to celebrate. We just kind of sit in different rooms and do our own thing. Now I'm super excited because a friend of mine is coming, and also there's girls being invited, which, yeah, I know it sounds bad, but I'm lonely, so deal with it. I take my Mawson because the guy that has the lodge says that it's like 5 kilometers from any form of civilization in all directions, and I kinda wanted to do target practice for the first time in a while. I also grab my Nagant because why not? I pack my clothes and the general necessities, and I get to the train station, and I'm by myself. So I think, oh, nice, now you're the type of guy who gets here super early before everybody else does. Though after a few minutes pass, I start to see the gang coming, and we exchange pleasantries, and I introduce myself to the girls and to the other guys. It's basically me, my friend, the guy who owns the lodge, his girlfriend, his cousin, and 3 other chicks from our school that I really only knew from sight, and I just assumed that they were like your typical attractive girl that would have a name like Stacy or something. So the guy who had the lodge, I will refer to him as L from here on out. He has a cousin who was with us who was a little bit too into guns and military stuff, if you'd ask me. The dude had those leather boots, and they had some wear on them, but they were very well maintained, like to an odd degree. Very pristine. They were almost shining. He had some old trousers and an old trench coat that looked pretty cool, to be honest, but I remember him telling me that he had an old painted German helmet, and I was like, oh yeah. So he didn't talk too much. His face is covered by some cloth and he has a wool cap. So we climb onto the train and sit down and we start to get to know each other. L says that his dad left some guns at the lodge, but he doesn't know exactly what they are. His girlfriend is super nice. She is a little bit liberal for my country, but not the type of liberal that you'd find in California, or so I hear. And one of the girls, named Anna, I'll call her, she has a major interest for guns and World War II history, which is right up my alley. Another chick, who I'll refer to as Stacy, she seemed to me like your typical super attractive girl with daddy issues. But the last chick, though, I'll call her Gabby since it's short, was more of a bookworm. She didn't have a deep knowledge, but she knew the bulk of almost any subject you could talk about. So Gabby and my friend get along pretty well since he's a bit of a bookworm too, although for him he mostly reads manga, philosophy, Marx, and occasionally some Sven Hassel if I lend him a book. I keep to Anna since she likes guns and we discuss Cold War era weapons. The other guy just sits there and decides to remove his face cloth, and he takes off his hat, revealing some pretty definite German features like blue eyes and a nice clean shaven face. He doesn't talk, and he just completely ignores the conversation. He just looks outside the window. The ticket control guy comes in. He's a pretty chill old dude, and he asks me what I have in my weird bag, a pelican case. I explain that I have a rifle, and he asks me if I have a permit and all the papers. So I show them after digging them out, and he tells me a story about times back in communism when he had wagons full of soldiers deploying for training. All of them would have AKs and such. He said how most of them were just guys like us, but a few of them took their roles a little too seriously and would try to give him a hard time. So after telling us this story, he leaves and we just continue talking about various stuff, trying to avoid any political topics or trigger subjects because, we're all trying to be friends. After 3 hours, we finally arrive. It's around early morning and it's snowing pretty lightly. The scenery is absolutely beautiful. The woods, the field, and all sorts of different landscapes. Elle says that we have to pass through a village and hike through the woods until we get there, but luckily there's a super nice trail. The villagers are preparing for Christmas too, but one halts the cousin of Elle, who I'll just refer to as Max, and talks with him a bit. Max says, "Guys, go on, I'll catch up with you in a minute." He finally speaks as he walks away with the villager. We slowly walk and joke about how he might get kidnapped or something by the villager, but then we see him catching up with us. He has a huge grin on his face as he catches up with us. Elle says, "What did you do, you sly devil?" And Max shows him a bottle of Raksha. The villager gave it to me and told me to keep up the good work. He gave it for free? He wanted to, but I did give him some money because I'm not into taking things for nothing. So we're walking along and all is dandy and fine except for the Eastern European cold weather that is biting my ass. And like I said before, we enjoyed the scenery. The fields are looking oddly beautiful as they are covered in snow. The village looks like it was taken straight out of a fairy tale. All is nice until we start getting deep into the woods. I get the heebie-jeebies and the dilly-dallies as we go deeper into the woods. Max looks at me with a frown, but slowly nods. He must have the same feeling. Elle and his girlfriend are probably used to it because they don't seem that bothered. My friend and Gabby seem too preoccupied with discussing stuff about books and all that. Stacy walks behind Elle and his girlfriend, being the third wheel or something, I would guess. Anna gets closer to me as we walk, and to be honest, I'm starting to like her. At one point she speaks up. "Yo, am I the only one weirded out by this forest or some shit?" We take a break to rest, and Elle tries to reassure us it's okay guys, the woods give this feel. Me and my girlfriend felt the same the first couple of times, but you get used to it. And then Anna says, "Yeah, but I feel watched, man." Now that you mention it, this forest does feel a bit odd, Gabby adds. "Well, you guys do know the legends, don't you?" Max busts into laughter. "Oh, you're gonna tell them that voodoo shit again?" And my friend is like, "Oh, what voodoo shit?" That little curiosity about the paranormal is surfacing in him. Elle over here is gonna feed you some story about a Wendigo or a skinwalker or some BS that he saw on the internet. But what if it is true? Elle tries to test the waters to see how chicken we are. He says, "Oh, screw off. This is Eastern Europe. The worst thing we're gonna bump into is a bear that forgot what hibernation means, or just some hillbilly doing hillbilly stuff." So the two of them banter back and forth about whether or not the stories are true, and we get back on the track. We're a little bit more relaxed, but I still get the feeling that I'm not alone out here, and it's not just the people I'm with. And then the trail ends, and Elle says, "Okay, so for this part we have to go off-road." He points over to where he's walking and starts hiking through the frozen foliage. We keep walking until he says something that weirds me out. He says, "Okay, everybody cover your noses for a bit, because this part of the trail is weird. It always stinks of dead animals." And I say, "What?" And he says, "I don't know what causes it or anything, but every time I come here, there's always this weird smell that seems to come from dead animals around here." Max looks very unimpressed. I thought it might be another fairy tale to him, but after a few more meters, I get hit by this horrible stench that I gag at. Everyone's complaining about it, and we just try to rush through that zone. "Shouldn't we check?" Max asks. "Check what?" says Elle. "The source of the smell." Oh, well, be my guest if you want to satisfy your curiosity. I don't find any point in looking for decaying carcasses. And he says, we shouldn't smell it, it's the winter. And he says, well, here we are, we're smelling it. So the rest of the road I just chit-chat with Anna, but I throw some glances over at Max, and he looks unsettled. He seems paranoid, constantly looking around and at the trees, but I shrug it off. We finally arrive at the lodge, and it's nothing impressive, but it has 2 levels. The bottom one is a common room, the upper one has 2 dormitories and a bathroom. All of us guys pick our room, and the girls pick the other. I get settled, and I go back downstairs to chill in front of the fireplace. It feels pretty cozy, really. The girls come down, and Elle does too. He's talking about getting stuff ready for our party that we're going to have tonight for Christmas. He gets the girls to prepare some appetizers while him and myself go out to prepare the barbecue, sausages, meat fingers, and some chicken, and to get some firewood. Max and my friend finally come down. My friend is carrying some alcohol bottles, and Max is carrying my friend's PS2. I giggled as I saw the look of pure disappointment in Max's eyes and posture as he carried the console to the Stone Age-looking TV that we had. So I get Max to come outside with us, and he has this gleam in his eyes when he's like, oh, thank God. So he puts the console down and rushes outside with us to help. After a few minutes pass, and my friend comes out too. We talk about guns and history and all that junk, and I find out that Max is a pretty hardcore survival dude, and he loves hunting. And I think, oh well, that's pretty cool, and it's kind of all the same stuff that I'm into. So fast forward until nighttime, when Al and his girlfriend occupy our room. The girls are too tired and go to bed, so it's me, Max, and my friend downstairs, making amends that we're not going to be sleeping in the bedroom. Me and my friend are playing on the PS2, and Max is looking at some SKS and some other gun that he found in a closet. It's all fun and games until Al comes down, and he's pissed. He says, guys, can you knock it off? And I say, what are you talking about? He says, it was fun and silly the first 2 times, but now it's annoying. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? He says, tapping on the window. And we say, it's the 2nd level, how are we supposed to do that? And Max says, it wasn't us. And he says, then who was it? Krampus? Elle's girlfriend comes down and she's pale. She says, I heard it again. I ask, the tapping? And she says, yes. Max looks at me and says, get your Mawson, as he gets up to go find ammo for the SKS. I get in the room and chills run down my spine. This feels odd. Not spooky odd, something beyond that. My friend is on the couch near the fireplace, and he has an axe in his hand, and L's GF is next to him. Max goes full officer and instructs L to go upstairs and check on the girls. Myself and him will go outside. We get outside and dear God it's cold. Like the ass of Siberia cold. We walk around the house but we find nothing. We get to where the girls had their window and something isn't right. We wave the flashlights around until Max urges me to kill the light and points me at some trees in the distance over the fence. Look, I don't see anything, I say. Something's there, just look. How do you know? Okay, shine your light now. I shine my light, and indeed I saw something. One of the shadows didn't go well with the rest of the landscape, and I'm like, oh damn. I only caught a glimpse of what seemed to be a black silhouette before it darted off into the woods. Max just darts after this thing, jumping the fence like it was the Polish border in 1939. I try to keep up, but Max is in much better shape than I am. There's a good 10 meters between us, 20 meters, 30 meters, 40, 50, and Then I realize that I can't see Max's flashlight. I can't hear Max anymore. I'm alone. My flashlight decides to play Morse code with me, and I'm confused because the flashlight worked fine earlier, so I'm hitting the flashlight thinking, oh, don't die on me now, and then it goes out. And judge me if you want, but I was terrified. Fear enveloped me. Fear became despair. I felt danger all around me. I yelled out, Max, come back. Max. The fear got the better of me, and I cowered, leaving Max in the darkness of the woods. I cowered back to the lodge, the fastest I ever ran in my life. As soon as I got over the fence into the relative open area, I felt relieved, but still watched. Al came out of the lodge with his gun. Did you get him? Where's Max? Words, tell me what happened. I lost Max in the woods. He went after that guy. How do you lose a person, you idiot? My battery died. I'm sorry. He says, you're just a moron. He goes to the fence and he wants to leap it, but he decides for some unknown reason not to. He comes back, not turning his back from the woods. He says, there's something standing there that's not Max. We both take aim, but a bit to the right of us we see a light. It's Max running and jumping over the fence. He looks frustrated and tired, and he says, I lost him, and he's breathing heavily. I was in a denial stage for some reason. I couldn't find any tracks. It's like it vanished. We go back inside, to my friend standing there guarding the door, and the girls are scared. We explain the situation, and Anna says maybe you guys scared them off. Maybe we should try to get some sleep now. We all agree, but I give her my other gun just in case. Elle and my friend sleep in the room. Max asked me to stay down with him. I'm ashamed and I can't look him in the eyes. He says, I know you ran. I said, I'm sorry, Max. He says, it's okay, I don't mind. It was probably the better thing to do. Anyway, look at me. An ice-cold glare meets mine. I don't know who's out there, but they know what they're doing. I couldn't find any tracks. No sign of anything. It's like he vanished. I said it's creepy. Never in my life have I seen such a thing. I don't understand what is happening, but you must notice that the woods were absolute silent. I look at him, trying to recall. He says, it's winter. I understand that. It's minus God knows how much, but there was not a sound. No deer, no wood snapping, no nothing. And that fear starts to rise up in me again. I say, that's weird. He says, we haven't heard or seen an animal yet. Even to this moment, we are not alone. And that was the conversation. It's burned in my brain. I was terrified to even ask for more, but he just sat there, gun aimed at the windows and door. From time to time, he would get up and walk to the kitchen, and then he would just sit there and listen, as he was in the darkness. I passed out at some point, but when I got up, people were chatting around and eating. Max wasn't around them. I say, where's Max? And, oh, he went outside. He has to come back. It's been 30 minutes. I get up and grab some bread and a dried sausage and go to check for him. Anna decides to come along. And she says, man, this is the creepiest and most screwed up Christmas I've ever had. I say, I feel you. She said, I'm quite terrified, if I can tell you. And I tried to lie to her and tell her I was just somebody playing tricks on us. After my conversation with Max, I almost didn't feel like it was human. And she says, let's hope you guys scared him away so that we can enjoy the rest of our time here. So we walk around and we hold hands a little bit through the woods. It sounds cliche and dumb, but it's what happened. I see Max in what seemed to be an opening that led to the forest, and this being a large spacing between the trees. but it was still enough density to give you a hard time maneuvering. And he says, "Hi guys." And I said, "Hey Max, we were looking for you." He points at us holding hands and says, "Doesn't look like it. You guys are the only thing that made a sound besides me so far, even now that it's day." Anna says, "Can you guys explain to me what's really going on?" So I tell her, and she slowly nods, but her facial expression says she's afraid. "I'd like to return to the lodge now," she says. Understandable. And the three of us march back to the lodge and we have lunch and just try to unwind. I try to stick with Anna and just detach from this creepy thing, but Max's posture just urges me to get more tense and worried. So, fast forward to nighttime. It's me and Max's turn to sleep in the room. Elle and my friend are on guard duty. At some point in the night, I get jerked from my sleep by my friend. He says, "Yo guys, wake up. Shit's getting weird out here." Max starts out of sleep, and we get back downstairs and he leads us outside where Al is aiming his gun. "What happened?" "Just listen." And we sit there for like a minute or two, and we hear it. "Max, come back." But it's not human-like. It's like something is growling, trying to say it. I say, "Oh, what the hell?" Max is confused too and says, "I don't understand this." The thing that creeped me out the most was when I heard the voice from the woods. It was where me and Max darted for the intruder the other night. And we hear, "Max," now from where Al pointed his gun, though this one was distant. And then we all run back into the lodge because we don't want to screw around with that. The girls heard it too, and they're scared. Not that I wasn't. We block the second level windows with furniture and do the same with the first level too. Al says, "Tomorrow we leave." And Max says, "Maybe we can fight it." And my friend says, "I'd rather not get close to whatever that thing is." As we all moved all of our stuff downstairs, we hear something that froze our blood. Tap, tap, tap. Regulated intervals on the closest window to the door. Stacy yells, "Leave us alone." Alone. We hear a cacophony of what tried to resemble Stacy's words. Us, alone. Max, alone. Come back. And I'm telling you guys, you don't even realize how this sounded. It sounded like something trying to regurgitate letters, and it just sounded really eerie and otherworldlish. "Help," we hear outside. There's a thud on the door. The girls are crying, and we are scared shitless. Thud. Come. Thud. And then we start praying, "Dear Lord, Holy Son and Spirit." And the thud and screeching intensifies. And they keep saying random, out-of-place words, and then silence. Just silence. Max is the first to grow a pair. He grabs the SKS and walks to the door. I get up and want to go with him, but something just prevents me from doing it, nails me in place. I don't know if it was the fear or paranoia, or just that feeling that if you leave the protection of your little piece of cover, you're going to die. Max looks at me and the rest of us. Prayers won't help you, friends. And he walks out, closing the door. There's silence again. We might have heard Max's footsteps, but I'm not sure. I hear shots being fired, and then what I could say was a blood-curdling scream. Definitely not Max's, though. Max comes back in, paler and older than that he left. He looks at us, and for the first time I could see fear in his eyes, but he hid it well. We should leave tomorrow. So, fast forward to the next morning. We rearrange the furniture back to where it was supposed to be and inspect that door. It's bent, but it held. Along the lodge we saw scratches. We wanted to just book it, but there was a blizzard. We had to wait for it to pass. So here we are, in the main room, not being able to see anything outside because of the wind and the snow. We're sitting in the main room and waiting for it to pass. After 5 minutes and a granola bar, nothing. 10 minutes, nothing. 15 minutes. All of a sudden, I have to go to the bathroom, and I think, oh, great, body, why did you do this to me? I go upstairs to get rid of my unwanted surplus of bodily fluids, and I'm just humming music to myself. I go to leave the bathroom, and then I hear tap, tap, tap. I look in my former room, nothing, and I hear it again. I look in the girls' room, nothing. Then I catch a glimpse of a dark-looking claw getting away from the window. I slowly close the door. I turn and close the other 2 doors. And then I mutter, "They're back." The cacophony show starts again, thuds and scratches. It's all louder than it was last night. It's a pain to even listen to. I feel hope draining out of my body with each thud and each "come back" off in the distance. Max gets up and says, "Enough." He looks at us and he says, "I refuse to stay here and die like cattle." He's in full battle rattle and marches to the door. I sack up too and I grab my Mawson and follow him. Max has probably snapped and lost it, but he was right, we can't die like this. As soon as he grabs the door handle, everything stops. He gets out, aiming his SKS in the blizzard, and he's just yelling obscenities into the snow. He starts firing, and I think, well, if you're gonna go out. I look through my sights and I see a shadow dashing through the trees. Fire, and I miss. I fire again, and I miss. And then I fire again, and I finally hit. But the creature screams and darts away. Max comes to my aid. Elle balled up and came out and threw what I can only imagine as a Molotov cocktail just somewheres. I can hear screams from whatever these things are. It sounded angry and frustrated, but silence soon followed. The blizzard was finished by 1 p.m. and we booked it out of there. We fast marched to the trail. I was the last because I had a gun with me. I'm still confused as to what I saw. 2 human-like silhouettes. They looked gray and black, but there was no other discernible thing that I could see at a distance. They weren't concealing themselves anymore. I found it weird, but I had hoped to God that they were going to give up, and thankfully they did. We didn't stop until we got into the station, and we slept there overnight until the train arrived the next morning. But even in the station, I kept my gun close, because I still felt in danger, and I still felt watched from somewhere. I haven't went to that place ever again, and I don't think I'm going to. Elle moved out of the country with his girlfriend. I don't know what happened to Stacy. I dated Anna until she left for the U.S. She probably lives somewhere in Minnesota or Wyoming, but I'm not sure. My other friend went to Japan for a while. I hanged out with Max for a while, but then we drifted apart. He ended up hanging himself for reasons that are still unknown to me and Elle, but the paramedics that found him just said that it must have been depression. The deep woods are a dangerous place, my friends. So, what'd you think of that story? I thought that it was scary and wild and insane and everything in between. If you have your own story, then I have an email in the description that you can send it to. I also have a PayPal and I have a Patreon if you want to donate to the channel. And now my voice is completely shot right now because I don't talk a whole lot in real life. Most of the time when I talk, it's for a video. So I'm going to go drink some water. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump, and thank you for watching.